We probably should go to the room. There's so many questions.
I think they want us to
yeah. Okay,
Q&A.
let's do it.
How do we make this industry standard? Say, Gene and I are in the cannabis industry, and we believe that this should be the absolute underpinning. How do we do that?
Well, you have to hire some engineers,
Yeah.
and you have to have those engineers design a system that works on top of a blockchain and that solves some of the fundamental problems that you see with your industry. And then you put that technology out there and you hope the industry adopts it. That's how you do it.
So you take a flying leap.
Correct.
And then you talk to all your friends and say, you have to do this.
You take a flying leap. I mean, this is hyper experimentation. There's literally hundreds of thousands of projects out there now, and most of them won't get adopted, and a few of them will, and those will become the new standards.
Is there anything that's already a standard?
Bitcoin's a standard.
Ether, probably.
Ether, at least the concept of a smart contract platform is a standard. There are a couple of sort of privacy-based crypto networks like Zcash and Monero that I think are pretty well established. But yeah, there are a few things that have emerged that I think will last.
One thing we didn't quite touch on, which I think is also really important in this new business model for an open protocol, is with the coin architecture, the token architecture is sometimes called, you have a much blurrier line in terms of the value that's captured by these new systems, right? So instead of just being like shareholders capture all the value, those might be employees or investors, and then customers get a product hopefully that they pay for or they don't pay for, but whatever. In the token model, that line gets a lot blurrier. You have people who create the protocol, you have people who help maintain it, who may not be employees of whatever organization has created the protocol, but are just miners or whatever service. You might reward coin to people who build applications using the protocol, turning it into something. You might even grant coins to early customers and say, hey, if you come to this service, use it, you'll get some coin. So it's a way of getting that kind of initial feedback loop up and running.
Two more uses of tokens that have emerged in the past year that I think are really super important. There's the concept of staking. So people stake tokens, they put skin in the game, and then they get the right to do things. And then governance, governance tokens. The ability, if you own tokens, you can vote on upgrades to the protocol. Super important. I think we've now learned in this country how important voting is, don't we now?
So the follow-on question is 5G and quantum computing. Where does that fit?
So in theory, quantum computing breaks cryptography, which is the fundamental technology that all this is built on. I think we will get cryptographic algorithms that are unbreakable by quantum computing. We're in a little bit of a race. I actually see that's a risk, but I'm not thinking it's a huge risk. And what was the other question? 5G networks?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think that's good. That's just more connectivity. I think that's a net positive for the world.
Thank you.
If someone is trying to do a token offering, would you recommend US as domicile?
No, I don't.
In the next 6 months?
No, the question is, this is a regulatory question and a jurisdiction question. So the super interesting thing is, Stephen and I were talking about, this is a global phenomenon. And these ICOs, so one of our companies we're involved in did an ICO last summer, and there were people who bought into the ICO from 170 countries. How many countries are there in the world?
Not much more than that, yeah.
They're 96 now.
170 different passports. And the reason we know this is that we did KYC, Know Your Customer, on every single one of the buyers, like 12,000 buyers. And we looked at passports from 170 countries, right? This is a global financial market. So the question is, if you do one of these token offerings, should you do it in the US, under the US laws, or should you do it outside the US? Unfortunately today, my advice would be don't do it in the US. Don't offer it to US citizens and sell it to the rest of the world. It's a bad answer, but that's where we are right now.
Any view in the future, like SEC is taking a position, or any insight that in 6 to 9 months it might be different?
This is a philosophical question. The SEC's view is our #1 job is to make sure that people don't lose money. That also means that their #1 job is to make sure that people don't make money. That's just the truth.
Yeah.
So sort of halfway through what you were talking about, my thought was, how do these new apps make money if it's an open protocol and it's sort of open to everyone? You talked about Twitter and the fact that it had to be sort of within this silo. And so you talk about the tokenization and how that's going to drive value and allow them to create value. But my question is, how does somebody from the outside then value that token? Like, how do you think about
What the token's
defining
worth?
the value of that token?
The most sophisticated thinkers on this question believe that you value it more like a currency than you do a stock certificate. So what we believe, and I think a lot of people would say we know, is that stocks are worth a discounted cash flow of the future value of the dividends or cash flow associated with those shares, right? That's sort of classic, stock valuation. Currencies have some relationship between the velocity of money and the money supply, and Nadeem probably knows this. Interest rates. Nadeem knows a lot about currencies. And so the thinking is these tokens are going to behave a lot more like currencies and will be valued based on the way the dollar is valued, or the euro is valued, or the yen is valued.
Or an emerging market currency.
Or emerging market currency. And I think it may well be true that the markets are not appropriately valuing these tokens correctly right now. They could be undervaluing or they could be overvaluing them. But I think over time, I believe that over time markets will come to some equilibrium, but we may not be there right now.
And then just on a follow-up, how do they get stolen? Like you talked about Mt. Gox, but like if it's so transparent and so
Right.
secure,
So the
how do we
thing
see
the thing
headlines
is,
they get stolen?
tokens are like cash. Okay, I have some crypto on this phone. Not a lot.
Not telling you how much.
Not a lot, but I have some. If you pick up this phone, you get into my crypto wallet, which you probably wouldn't be able to because I've got a lot of security on it. You could send that crypto to your wallet, and I can never get it back. There's no
Can
there's
you
no
tell where it went?
What?
Can you tell where it went?
You can see the address, but I don't know who that is. So if somebody does something fraudulent with my credit card, I can go to the credit card issuer and I can say, those are fraudulent transactions, and they shut them down, they give me back my money. That's because there is a central authority. We're talking about a network where there is no central authority. Once my tokens leave my crypto wallet and they go somewhere else, I can't get them back. So, of course, what hackers do is they try to hack into networks, they try to hack into computers, they try to hack into places where there's a lot of crypto, and they try to get it. And once they get it, you're screwed.
Questions about the institutional side of things. Before you talked to, if you smush it all together, it would be like the Amazon cloud business. Is there a reason why you're not seeing more institutional business doing institutional mining? They're going to have the talent, the people, the resources, probably better ways to have energy savings than an individual. What's stopping that from becoming a business?
I don't understand this. I wrote a blog post probably 3 or 4 years ago now saying, why aren't the largest money center banks in the world the largest miners of Bitcoin? I mean, they have massive transaction processing capabilities. They have huge data centers. This is their business, right? They're in the business of financial transactions. Why aren't they providing most of the mining power on the Bitcoin network and the Ethereum network? Like, that seems logical.
Or even about Amazon itself.
Yeah, I wouldn't surprise me if somebody inside Amazon or somebody inside Google or somebody inside Facebook is starting to mine. I think they're a little closer to maybe being able to get there. I just think it's like one of the things I've observed in 30-some years of doing venture capital is the biggest blind spots are always held by the people who are like the natural inheritors of the value of the innovation, but they just can't see it. And sometimes you have to be a little removed from it to get it.
And the other question on the institutional side, going back to kind of trusted clearing organization, let's take the DTCC as an example.
Right.
Is there a way ultimately to talk to them and say, why don't you co-opt blockchain technology versus view it as a nemesis?
I think that a lot of these people are doing that. But what they're not willing to do is they're not willing to truly open their business and operate in a truly open network that would allow anybody to clear, not just them. They're used to owning a monopoly on clearing. That anybody who's a central clearinghouse de facto has a monopoly in that kind of a world, right? They're the ones that send stock certificates to different brokerage accounts. So I just don't think that they're interested in doing that. I think it's going to be hard. My partner Brad talks about something which is the most disruptive technologies are things that the incumbents can't react to because it would completely decimate their business model. So you think of something like the mobile phone, right? It wasn't really that disruptive because anybody who had a web business could build a mobile app. It didn't really change their business. Facebook built a mobile app. Amazon built a mobile app. So it really wasn't disruptive. The internet was disruptive because all of a sudden companies like Google were selling software for free with an advertising business model. So if you were a software company, you're like, I can't do that, right? I get paid for my software. I can't give it away. But of course, that was the move, right? So I think we're going to see the same thing here.
How many years do you think we are with the adoption? Someone who lived through the dot-com crash, like the folks who thought Amazon was great were right. They just wound up being like 7 or 8 years too early with significant losses that went with it. Like from the moment that you can see this open protocols is going to we're actually also using it, like, what do you think the timing is on that?
Maybe repeat the question.
The question is, how long are we away from mass adoption? And the comment was like, you know, there's a lot of doubters about Amazon in 99, 2000, but by 2005 or 2006, it was clear that they were going to be a massive success, right?
By 2012 for the rest of us.
Okay. I think within 10 years. I'm not sure it's within 5 years. I do think there will be places where we will see success. One of the big problems, we didn't even talk about this, so important, a trustless mechanism to clear transactions today is a very inefficient and slow system. None of these blockchains can clear transactions like at anywhere near the speed of the Visa network. I think it's like 5 orders of magnitude slower than the Visa network. So you can't really build high throughput transactions on these systems, but you could build something that doesn't clear a lot of transactions. So I could imagine, for example, home sale title clearing on a blockchain, right? Because there's just not that many transactions. But something that you would need real-time transaction processing, we're a long way away from that. And most consumer applications, I think, need that.
That is centralized, right? At the end of the day, the problem with decentralization is something like that. They're trying to put it on a lot of different computers or all coming together. Can you achieve the decentralization and achieve the efficiency?
Well, so this is a great question. The question is, can you achieve decentralization and efficiency? Think of it as a continuum. Right, so the most efficient blockchains are highly centralized. A totally centralized blockchain is a database, right? And then you have some things that look kind of like a database, but they're just a little decentralized. If you go all the way over to Bitcoin, it's inefficient and slow, right? So a lot of the innovation we're seeing now is like, where on that curve do you want to be? Like, can you be here versus here? So we're seeing new blockchains emerge where they're making trade-offs between decentralization and efficiency. I think a lot of the innovation is going to happen in the next 3, 4, 5 years on that continuum. But I do think eventually we will get to highly scaled, decentralized consensus mechanisms that are truly decentralized. But I think that's what is a ways away. It's a hard computer science problem.
So you think it's 3 to 5 years away?
I think it's at least 5 years away for mainstream adoption of decentralized applications, and could be as much as 10 years away. That doesn't mean, by the way, that you should just avoid this sector entirely, because I could be wrong.
We have one more question.
We haven't done that side of the room.
Now, let's do
try
this
and-
side.
What happens when Bitcoin hits its finite limit? How do you support the transaction?
I'm pretty sure the question is what happens when Bitcoin hits its 21 million and you can't earn new Bitcoin from mining. There will be a transaction fee, right? Miners will get paid a transaction fee for mining at that point.
What's that mean?
It's like a credit card, like your credit card. Like when you do a credit card transaction, somebody pays the credit card processing company for clearing that transaction. Not you, but generally the merchant pays that. So it'll be something like that. There'll be some sort of a transaction fee, so the miners still get compensated. They'll take some of your Bitcoin and give it to the miner for clearing the transaction.
Great.
Okay.
So, thank you both. And I just want to say, I had a long plane ride today, so I read Stephen's New York Times article, and I highly recommend it for, those of us who are more on the lay side of the equation, because you do a very good job of making it clear, and it certainly helped me understand this fascinating conversation. So, thank you both very much.
Thank you.